something happened to me recently that really helps me understand why we're still on this earth. Like, why are we still here? And it was a situation where I got to put it into perspective, because I left where I'm living now for 1 year. So I left for a year and now I'm back. But that time before that year that I went somewhere else, I was working a job that I got fired from, but I now work there again after having returned. And I had a manager who was just kind of like, I think she maybe had an issue with alcohol. I heard that said, but she had a really quick temper, and there were nights where she would be kind of really upset at some of the customers, or guests, I should say. And, so she had some issues, but she ended up quitting right before, like a few months before I would leave and go to this place that I was for a year. And she, one night I was, a few days after she left, or probably like a week or two, she sent me a message. And I was known for, because I always had my Bible, I would always be studying, and I would have it there. And, I guess people didn't like that. I mean, I remember there were some times where, I remember this one time, hold on, I gotta say this. I remember this one time where a guy looked at me. He was a little bit like drunk too. Man, I saw something in that guy's eyes. It's like a demon was looking directly at me. I had it there, and he just kept like he was on the side of me, and he kept staring at me. I had the Bible there, so I know it bothered people, because it's a rebuke. It's like you know what I'm talking about. So she says to me one evening after she gets fired, says, "Hey, Bible thumper, you get your story straight if you're gonna say anything about me." And all I had really said was, "Oh, I think she left because she was." I don't know, I think I said she was like unhappy or something like that, or because something else had happened, and I didn't know. But apparently she still was in contact with people who were there. She was, because she has some people out there who were just like her, and they wanted to kind of hopscotch around the place and cause problems. And I guess I came and I didn't know I was walking into that, and I kind of interrupted that, and so she says, "Hey, get your story straight if you're gonna say anything about me." And I'm like, "What?" I said, "Listen, if I said anything about you, it was true. Or if it wasn't, it's because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know why you actually left. But if you feel like I said something about you, I'm not going to just lie about you like that. I wouldn't, you know what I mean? If you did this thing, you just did it. You probably shouldn't have done it. And it is what it is. I mean, what do you want me to?" And she didn't, I don't know. I guess when someone who would say something behind your back and not say it to you, when they come to you, they kind of expect you to be thinking like that too. Like, well, I don't want this person to know that I said. It doesn't matter to me what you think I said. I will say it directly to you. It doesn't matter, But so she says this. She basically threatens. She says, "Listen, I'm gonna have you and the manager fired." And eventually, that's what happened, which is crazy. But the way she got me fired was she said that I said something about someone's sexual orientation, and that's a wild card, because there are protected groups, and those are one of the protected groups. So if you say anything about them, or if they even said that you did at a work environment, you're under scrutiny, and it doesn't really matter whether they investigate thoroughly or not. You can be let go. Even if, because they're just afraid of lawsuits. We've set this country up on suing constantly, so everybody's scared of that now. So they let me go, and they said they were going to investigate that, and they put you on probation and whatever, and you're not gonna do that to me. I'm just gonna leave. You know what I mean? I'm not coming back, after you figured out that I didn't do what you said that I did. We don't even need to do all of that. If I come back, I'm gonna come back a long time from now. Which is eventually what happened. But so they let me go, and I text the manager. I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" Yeah, and originally I thought it was him, because he had, I don't know, I guess he had kind of fallen out of favor with the owners of the company and everything, and I felt like he didn't like me either. I don't know. I don't know what to think. But what happened was, the person who was over sales at this place, is now the manager. And when I came back after this year, they hired me. And, of course, the old manager is gone, and so is this person who originally got me fired, and a few other people. But now I'm back, and this person said that I said something about this other person's sexual orientation, who still works here. So now they have to see me again. And, they're just afraid of, I remember the first time I saw them, they nodded because they were surprised to see me. But, they didn't want to really do that. They didn't want to acknowledge me at all. And then I guess the guy, he jumps on the phone and, is panicking, that I'm working there now. You know what I mean? And get this. So after that, it just kind of starts to get, the guy keeps saying stuff, about me, about what I've done and everything. And then one day I said, you know what, I'm just going to talk to this guy. I'm going to see if I can just grab his attention. I say, hey, can I talk to you for a second? And the first thing I do is I say, listen, man, I'm sorry if I said anything. I don't know what I said, but I'm sorry if I said anything. Like, first of all, you know what I mean? It was not my intention to, this is, how you want to live your life. That has nothing to do with me at all. And, and I asked him, I said, what did I say? And he says, well, they said that you said something about, my sexual orientation, etc. I said, did you hear me say that? No, I never heard you say, but they said, I said, oh, so then it might not be true if you just heard that I said it, and I didn't press any further with that, because I could have said, you should have just asked me if I'd, like, why you didn't just confront me about, people don't want to do that because they're afraid now of confrontation. But I said, okay, well, you know what, now this person threatened me, and I think I showed him the messages that I had. I said, look, this person says that they're going to get me fired. And then, surprisingly, they say this thing is now out that I said this thing. That matches. They told a lie about what I said. And he's like, oh, that makes sense. And we got to the bottom of that. And I said, listen, can we shake hands on this? Because I don't have any issues with you. And then, we shook hands, and, we needed to be communicating, the two of us, during those mornings, and we weren't able to because there was that tension there. And then now, okay, we squashed this, and the guy's talkative, and he's, we're laughing and stuff like that. And it's funny because what I said at the beginning of this video was that I'm seeing now how that we're still here, and the reason why we're still here on this earth and why this stuff is getting worse and we don't know what to do is because we're waiting for God's name to be vindicated. And I've said this in other videos, but that's what's happening, and God knows that takes time. That type of thing takes time. He can't just say, well, you know what, Satan, I didn't say that, that's not who I am, I'm gonna just go ahead and get rid of you because we can't. No, because then that will cause you, it's like God has to let all of his creation understand, according to their levels of intelligence and thought and reason that he's given to them, who is who and who means well and who doesn't, so and that takes a while. It just takes a while, and that's what we're kind of, because down here, like, for example, us, we see, some of us still don't see who the enemy is. A lot of us still think that God is the enemy because he is the one who is allowing this. But we don't understand that he's got to let Satan's character be revealed. And see, Satan has lied about who he is. And he's hidden himself behind so many layers that we don't understand what his movements look like. We're not able to see him because he's hidden himself. And we don't study, and it's just these things that he's doing to just break us down are working so well that nobody really has they're not there mentally to say, wait a minute, let me wake up out of this, let me study. And of course, now God will put certain people in certain families. They're like, okay, he says, you know what, I need somebody who's going to do my will in this family. I'm going to put this person who is a straight shooter, I'm going to put them in this family, and they're going to rebuke everybody here. Cool. And then he does it again, and he will put people who, and these people are eventually the people who will, study and get to the bottom of who's really the problem here. The problem here is Satan. He has always been and always will be the problem until he gets his judgment. That they talk about that in Revelation. So let's not blame, because you see how, like put yourself in that position. Like if you were at a place and someone said something about you, what would make most sense? What would make most sense is if you just allow your right doing and your good character to continue. Because you know what's funny? Everybody would say, I just don't know how they said, and that was like a black mark on my record there, that I said this about this person. And everybody would say, yeah, I don't see how that could be true. I mean, this guy is peacefully comes in, he's nice, he seems like he's just calm and just, he doesn't have any issue with anyone. That's what people would say. So the lie itself didn't make sense. You know what I mean? So the lie that Satan has told about God does not make sense. So we're waiting to see that, and see Satan that's why Satan wants to get between you and God, because if he knows that if you look at God, wait a minute, you kind of clear your eyes, he's not who he says he is. There's nothing wrong with him. That's why he blocks you, and that's why sometimes he will keep your prayers from feeling, you pray and you feel like you unfulfilled, you feel like God didn't listen to you, or he'll have something happen. Now God will allow that because he's testing your faith. Because remember Job, I wanted to do an in-depth study of the book of Job too, because that thing happens at the beginning of that book, and there are so many chapters, and they're talking. There's a lot in that. I think the main thing in that is, what stance do you need to have when God allows something to happen to you? Because God has allowed certain things to happen to me too, that I'm probably not ever going to talk about on this channel here, but these are things that I've had to work through and eventually used it. Because I went through a point I was upset. I was like, why on earth would God allow this thing to happen to me right here? I mean, we've gotten to the bottom of this, and he's allowing this now. What is this? But eventually you start understand. Like, I used to be upset with him, but now I'm not. I understand. Okay, this is just something that he does to keep you, in line. And if you get out of line a little bit, he's using this thing to show you, yeah, you need to work on this right here. Now this is, you getting, your numbers aren't good over here. To work on those. You know what I mean? And so you've got him testing you, and you've got that working with Satan's lies that he's telling about God's character. So you got to learn how to separate those things, because we feel like God testing us and doing these things that we feel like are unfair, they match with what Satan is saying, but they really not congruent. Satan is saying this stuff about God, and then God is doing these things to get you to see him clearly, because when he puts you through a test like that, he's got to, and now I'm talking about this because I mentioned that, you got to see him clearly. And the only way you really can see him clearly is if he tests your faith, because he's got to show you, what is it that I think it's that we know that through a bad situation, he is showing you how, like, his goodness. He's showing you, okay, I can deliver you from something like this. But you know what? More importantly, he's showing you how he thinks. Because you have to figure out, why did he allow this thing to happen? Like, what is it about this? What do I need to learn from this? And when you look at that, you'll see you rack your brain, and he'll allow you to rack your brain for a time and to study for a time, and then he'll eventually drop it in there like, this is why. And then, okay. And then that's how you mature. You go from a seedling to, a young adult plant, and then you grow up, and eventually you've got that, you've weathered things, so that's really his goal. And that's the only track really that humans are on. We're all on that track. We've got to go through these hard things, but we have to understand how to separate Satan's lies from what God is doing. And that's what this channel really is about. It's about really exposing what Satan has said. Because I made a video just earlier today about the Gentiles, and how Satan has really subtly told us that, okay, Gentiles are just non-Jews. No, if you say that, you get rid of the responsibility, the accountability that a certain group of people need to have, the people who lied about that. So he's covering himself. Satan is covering himself, lying about God, and then God is testing our faith. So we got to learn how to separate it. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. So I just wanted to say that and start by telling that story, because that is something that is we're all kind of starting to wonder about, like, why is, and it's, the world is getting so much worse. I was just talking to someone. I talk to a lot of people who live in Central and South America, and I was talking to a lady from Argentina today, and she's saying, yeah, it's just getting worse. Stuff is just everything about our society is getting worse. And you know what? I'm going to take that opportunity to say here too, God, he never intended for humans to live in cities so tightly packed and just, living on top of each other. And that's not what he wanted. So whenever you see, just know this, we have, I would say like 99% of this world, we're not living according to how God wants us to live. So when you're already off there, you don't even have, like, because listen, if we all had a little bit of land, and when we kind of would barter and trade amongst ourselves, you grow this, I grow this, and I this is my trade and this is yours, we wouldn't be distracted. We're distracted now, so we can't even think really clearly. That's why nobody is really able to get to the bottom of anything anymore. And, you're just digging and digging for the truth, because we are, anyway, I'm getting off, but there are so many, I could go on and on, but I just wanted to talk about that thing that happened to me, because that helped me understand that you just got to wait, man. That's, God has to wait. He can't just say, no, I didn't say this. This is not my character. He can't do that right away. But anyway, I don't want to ramble here, but I just wanted to introduce that story, or tell that story about how, I see that you just got to wait sometimes, and let your character be the thing that disproves what someone said about you, about your race, about your people. Let your own good works be the thing that, and then the Bible says that you got to let your good works shine before men, so they will see, so then they will glorify your Father who is in heaven. They'll see, wait a minute now, he's not like this. So this lie that Satan told can't be right. The only way you can debunk Satan is if you just do what's right and your character is right. You can't really argue. We do so much arguing. Anyway, I'm not gonna get off. That's all I wanted to say.